The first thing I think that everybody needs to understand, and I think we've been really clear on this from day one, that teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic is just not enough. We would love for it to be enough. We would love for every child to have parents that had the ability to take care of them, that were educated, but that's just not the case. And that's not a criticism of those parents. It's just the way the world is today. So you take what's presented to you and you play with those cards. You have to just deal with the realities. Mm-hmm. One of the realities is that in the U.S. in particular, and in Louisiana, we have not really zeroed in on the basic problems. We're a poverty state. So in order for children to learn, we go back to a social scientist, a guy named Maslow, and we use Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's very simple. Maslow said, and I believe it in my heart, that every human being has to be okay physically. They have to be eating well, their physical health has to be good, their emotional health has to be good, all that kind of stuff. Then the second thing is they have to feel safe. The third thing he talks about is there has to be some kind of sense of belonging, that somebody loves you, the relationships. And the fourth thing he talks about is that kids have to be, or humans have to have some kind of goal that's achievable. Their self-esteem has to be there, that they have the knowledge that I have the ability to achieve. And then the fifth thing is, then they achieve. Mm-hmm. So I think in education we've forgotten all of that. We've turned that completely upside down, and we just say kids come to school and achieve. And we ignore all these other problems. Then there's another huge piece that we have ignored in education, and we've just been scared. And and I blame us as educators. I blame us as superintendents, because we've just been scared. But we have pushed the spiritual part out. Now, some people are going to say, "Oh my God, you can't do that. You have to separate church and state." I agree with that. I mean, you can't have preachers coming in and trying to sign up kids to go to their churches. But we've created what we call as part of our turnaround plan, our faith and character task force, where churches are actually adopting schools, and they're coming in with well-meaning people who are not proselytizing and trying to sign up kids to come to their church, but they're doing what Christ would do. They're doing good deeds. So they're mentoring children, they're helping kids get on the bus, they're working with parents who don't have enough money to send the child on a field trip. They're doing Christ-like things. And there's no law that says you can't do that. There's no law that says you can't do good deeds. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a huge piece that's been left out of education. Now, I'm saying all that to say this, that I've been in education 42 years, and one of the things that I learned when I started out teaching was that it didn't matter how good a teacher I was or how well prepared I was. If kids came to school and they weren't able to learn because of either physical or emotional or mental health issues, then I was in a pickle. I was not going to be able to teach those kids, and they were not going to be able to learn up to their ability. So what we've done in every school district I've ever been in, we've right-sided Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We've said, we got to start first at the basics. So that's why we have nurses. That's why we have therapists. That's why we have, snacks and meals that kids can take home with them. That's why we have the people from the churches coming in and helping our kids deal with emotional issues. So when people criticize us because we're not spending all of our time doing reading, writing, and arithmetic, I go back to the science. Mm-hmm. I go back to the research that says if we do these basic things that Maslow said in terms of physical health and creating a family in the school so that I belong somewhere, I have some relationships, I get nurtured, I have a great self-esteem. If we don't do those things, our kids will never make it. Now, one of the criticisms is, well, if they're spending all their time getting all this health stuff, as they call it, when do they go to class? Well, the whole point is they spend more time in class now than they ever have, because used to they would go to the school secretary who knew nothing about anything. They would just call the parents and say, come get them. Now these kids go to the nurse or the therapist, they get whatever needs to be done, they go right back to class. So in fact, we've increased academic time. So that's one huge piece. We have to have the health and wellness piece, because the facts say that these kids present themselves without having been cared for in the way that they should. Nobody's fault. It's just that's the way it is. And when I came to Lafayette, the same way that I've gone into any other parish, we investigated how well we were really doing. Not just the rhetoric, but how well were we really doing? Everybody said Lafayette's a wonderful school district. And in fact it is. Wonderful programs, wonderful people. But what we found was we had about if you total it all up, about a 30% dropout rate. And if you look at 31,000 kids, that's a lot of kids that are running the streets. I found that we had about 4,000 children that were at least 2 years and 3 years over age. In other words, they had been retained 3 times. Those kids were causing discipline problems. So we had to put in some programs that control the discipline issues. Now the health and wellness will do part of that. Kids have people to talk to. They have doctors and nurses and dentists and therapists and counselors and people from the churches. They have relationships. They can deal with part of that that way. We can handle part of the discipline that way. But the other thing we had to do was we had to move literally 4,000 kids into their right age groups. In other words, if you were 14 years old and you were still in an elementary school because you had failed 3 times, you weren't feeling too good, because you were bigger than everybody else. Everybody else knew you couldn't read. And so either you ended up feeling terrible about yourself and you began to have discipline issues, or you decided, well, the one thing I can do is be a bully because I'm bigger than everybody else. And I know I'm getting into the nitty gritty, but see, that's what you have to do. You got to really dig deep to find out what the basic issues are. So we created these alternative classrooms, and we moved the 14-year-old to the junior high. And we put him in a classroom with fewer kids, because this kid probably didn't know how to read. He had self-esteem issues. He was, he may not have been getting what he needed to get at home. We put him, with a nurturing teacher, fewer kids, and we put him in a curriculum that he could be successful in. So instead of trying to teach him English at the 8th grade level, which is where he should be, we put him in a pre-GED or a GED program, and we taught him how to read. You teach them how to read, and they'll learn quickly. It's not like they're not intelligent kids. So we taught them how to read. We gave them this spiritual encouragement. For the first time, they felt like, oh my God, these people are trying to figure out how to keep me here instead of how to get rid of me. Now that's a big deal for a 14-year-old when you're going through puberty and everything else that happens. And I think we have to, everybody would like to think we could just go right on to the, reading, writing, and arithmetic, but you can't build a beautiful roof on a house unless you have the, the foundation and the walls. So we're building the foundation and the walls, and at the same time, for those kids who can handle the roof, we're giving them the roof. Because we've got a lot of bright kids in Lafayette, and we're not forsaking them. We are giving them what they need. So if you're a gifted child in Lafayette Parish, you're getting a gifted education. But for 30% of our kids, or 40% of our kids, I guess, they don't have the foundation yet. I don't blame anybody for that, but let's just call it like it is. And that's why they drop out. And that's why you have all the shootings and the killings in Lafayette. I mean, Louisiana has the highest prison population per capita in the whole world. Lafayette is very, very high in Louisiana. So we're not helping this community by throwing these kids out of school and by not taking the time to teach them. So we get a lot of criticism because we're building the foundation and we're setting the walls up, and we will eventually put the roof on for all these kids. We want all of them to graduate or all of them to complete school, and I think that's really important. Our 100% in, 100% out plan says every child is going to complete high school. Now, they're not all going to graduate with a high school diploma. Some of them may have a GED. Some of them may go to our career center and get an industry-based certification and go right to work, for $40,000 a year as a welder's helper, Mm-hmm. But our idea is don't let anybody leave school without completing some kind of a program so that they have a sense of opportunity and hope for the future. Now, I can tell you, I think test scores are fairly bogus because, and I know we have to do it, but what we're essentially doing is we're measuring every child on one day with one test. Now, I know we have to do it, and we're gonna get better. We went from a C to a B school district. I think we're going to get to be an A school district in terms of what the state says an A school district is. But an A school district to me is more than just a test score. An A school district to me is we don't have any dropouts. An A school district to me is we don't have girls that are getting pregnant by the hundreds because their self-esteem is so low and nobody's taking care of them. We have programs that we're trying to put into the school district right now for those girls, because what we know by the research is they can graduate from high school. Just because they had one baby doesn't mean they have to have a second. And if we can take that one baby and put it in our child care, that baby is going to start first grade ready to learn, in spite of being the offspring of a teen parent. So we're doing a lot of extra things that are foreign to some people. And Lafayette's pretty conservative, and we've got some folks here that say, look, we shouldn't be doing that. The parents should be taking care of their kids. The parents should be doing this. I fully agree, but it is not happening. So if I'm presented, with children that aren't ready to succeed, I've got to get them ready. Mm-hmm. So that's why we're doing a lot of our preschool work. These kids that come to school and aren't ready, we tend to quickly say, oh, they are intellectually deficient. And I'll just say it. We think, well, if you come from poverty and you're black and you're from the north part of Lafayette, then the assumption made by the prior school board in some cases was you can't learn. Your parents are not helping, you don't have a chance. What we know is that if we put those same children in our pre-K classes, it doesn't matter who their parents are. It doesn't matter what color they are. It doesn't matter their poverty level. Those kids will learn because they're not intellectually deficient. They're experientially deficient. They just haven't been stimulated. Nobody's read to them. Nobody's prayed with them. Nobody's taken them to Disneyland. And so they come to school with a huge developmental delay. But if we put them in preschool, we can fix that.